All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to season 2 of the CAA Today podcast. We'll be going through season 5 of FFCS, technically season 5 of FCFB, technically season 4 of FFCS, FBS as well. With me today, Duquesne coach Valpix and Delaware State coach Matt. I don't know if you guys want to introduce yourselves as well.
Hello there. Hey.
And with that being said, let's get this thing on the road. So the first thing that we want to talk about that everyone will see on their screen is the carousel, or as we like to call it, the CAA Rosel. The CAA only lost one coach, and that was Fuzzy from Richmond, who was eventually replaced by Zand. Our esteemed Netherlands coach is going to be adding to the international flair
Denmark.
of the CAA. Denmark, Netherlands and Denmark. I always get them confused for some reason. Probably because I have a friend moving to Netherlands this summer, so Netherlands has been on my mind recently. And also we usually have Bernie here, but Bernie's gone AWOL because of work. So hopefully in future episodes you'll hear his voice doing this intro. But I'll go through the off season real quick. Anything notable that happened? The first thing is, obviously, besides Zand, I hosted a tournament featuring two other CAA teams. This was the directional dispute, in which the Midwest, the West, South, and East faced off against each other. I made it to the championship game, lost to eventual CAA foe Towson, and then we had another CAA coach, Villanova, take 5th place. And I know Delaware State had a tournament. I'll let you go through what happened in that. I know it didn't finish, but you can say a little bit about it and the other CAA coach in it.
Yeah, so I was the host of the AONP, or All Offense No Playoffs tournament. So basically, all the best teams that I could find that were really good on offense, but weren't good enough to make out of the NIT or the actual playoffs. There was 5 of us. It was me, Houston Baptist, Wagner, who I think was Duke at the time, as well as Dan from South Dakota. So not an all-star lineup, but it was a fun tourney. The final was never played, unfortunately. It would have been me against the winner of Gap, who's Robert Morris, and Duke. So overall, it was just a pretty slow. It was a slow-moving tournament, lots of dogs in it. So it was just not really much.
And then we had Duquesne here, also on another off-season tournament. I don't know if you want to talk about that.
Yeah, I was in the FIT, which is hosted, of course, by the one and only fella Naki. I won my first game against Naki. It was a bloodbath. Like I was up like 35 halftime. I actually felt kind of bad, but it's like I've been waiting for that kind of performance from me, like pretty much ever since I joined. And then I lost in the semifinals in what I recall being a fairly close game to Sarah from Nodak State, I do believe.
Okay. Well, that's the off season. Nothing too big happening. No commissioner change. I did take a slight spot of power in this, but it's not too much. And we'll be going through the power rankings, the first of the season, as I switch the graphic here. Delaware actually only beating out Youngstown State because of first place votes. So a technical tie, but obviously with tiebreakers. We had Delaware 1, Youngstown State 2, Richmond coach Zand at 3, Towson at 4, Nova 5, Delaware State 6, VMI 7, Robert Morris 8, Morgan State 9, JMU 10, William & Mary 11, and Duquesne bringing up the rear at number 12. I don't have much to add to this. I think this is just because of its preseason and things happen in the off season, people may have let things slip out of their mind. But overall, it's a pretty good shape of how the conference played out last year. Obviously, besides Richmond, I don't know if you guys want to talk about it a little bit more in depth.
Bulletin board material. As the person who was predicted last, which I mean, fair enough. I went 3-9, but I think like 4 or 5 of those were actually losses, were one possession games. So I don't know. We'll see. But bulletin board material. But other than that, I think the poll is pretty accurate. I think Delaware and YSC are pretty interchangeable at number 1, and then it's just a really competitive conference. So
Yeah.
to have a guy like DePupeter at 7, like that's pretty strong because he is a very good coach.
Realistically, anyone between the 4 and 8 spots can flip flop. I mean, you can even go down as far as 9 or 10 if you want to. Like any of those coaches could realistically finish in that area.
Yeah, the one thing I wanted to point out is Robert Morris at 8. Robert Morris finished the season on a 3-game win streak, taking down Delaware, Morgan State, I believe, and then Youngstown State, if I'm not mistaken, or it could have been Richmond. I'm not sure here, but ending the season taking down both of the CAA Conference Championship game participants, kind of a big thing, and to see them ranked that low, that was pretty surprising. I'm pretty sure I had them number 5 or 6, I want to say, but obviously, it's a cumulative ranking. We had 5 coaches submit this week. We'll probably be more next week as we see play start up and people will get more involved with these things. But that's all for power rankings. We can move on to the next one. It'll be a quick one here. We got a contender and pretender. This was the controversial segment. I used Josh's rankings for this because obviously we don't really have a full ranking system. No coaches poll out yet. So my contender is And. And was ranked, I'm pretty sure, 9th in the poll by Josh, or in Josh's poll. And was a quarterfinalist last year and almost upset Bethune-Cookman, and I think they deserve respect. And another contender of mine is Towson, just because they won the DDD, and Towson's a good coach. Recently had a child. Congrats to him. And then my 2 pretenders are ETSU, which is now coached by Fruity, and Incarnate Word, which is coached by Moofish. I just don't see them deserving a spot that high in Josh's rankings.
Okay, so my contender, I'm going to go with Idaho, because Oga's there now, and he won a national championship, so I expect him to be in the mix. And for pretender, it's Moofish at Incarnate Word. He always does good at the regular season, that then usually gets slapped around in the playoff. So I'm not expecting him to really do much in the playoffs, even if he makes it this year.
Val, I don't know if you have a contender, pretender choosing of yours. Oh wait, she's gone. Okay, never mind. I totally missed that. I'll just keep moving on, I guess, with our week 1 preview. Ignore the week 8 scoreboard. I just forgot to change that. Totally a miss on my part. There we go. Val's back.
Yes, I have returned.
Do you have a contender and pretender that you want to let us know
of? Not off the top of my head. I probably should have taken notes on that, but
it's fine. It's fine.
I got the script late, and then I spent the entire time, instead of actually doing productive things, watching the Formula 1 on delay.
Hey, sports is always good, no matter what. So we'll move into our week 1 preview then. Starting off with your game, in fact, Duquesne at Stetson. I'll start off here. As much as I want to pick Duchesne, I have to go hat here, so I'll give Stetson by 28-10.
I'm going to agree with you here. I have Stetson by 3 scores. So Duquesne is good, but I think Stetson's just overall just a much better team.
I think the thing is so Stetson and I are basically best friends. So, when you're facing someone you're really close to, I feel like you can kind of throw, scouting and methodology out the window, because it's no one knows you better than the people that you are close to. And we did play last season very early, and it was a very, very close game. It was one of those 1-score losses by me. I think it was, by 1? I'll dig it up real quick. 24th Stetson at Duquesne. Yeah, 38-35. So it was very close. Pretty back and forth game. So it's going to be competitive. I obviously will pick myself, but it can go either way.
Yeah, it could. That'll be a good one to keep your eye on. It was a very good game last season, I should say. So our next game here, man, this is a mess. But the MSU series, we've got Montana State at Morgan State for the first one. I'll take Danny to win the opener, just purely based off of last season's records. I know Danny kind of gave up towards the end, but I see a reinvigorated Danny here. And I think it'll be close in this first game. I'll go 35-31. I will say, in the series, I think Morgan State is just going to win the next three. Obviously, Morgan State is going to skip on the CAA challenge to play Montana State. So I'm picking Montana State game 1, Morgan State the rest of the way, unless something jarring happens.
I frankly think it's going to be a split on the series. I like Danny in the early going, but when you're playing each other a gajillion times, eventually you're going to find out, what each other's tendencies are, and ultimately that's just kind of gonna equalize, I feel like. But at least at the start, I think Danny has a little bit more than Ryland. That's not disrespect to Ryland as much as it is, I think, very highly of Danny as a coach. So it'll be close. I'm gonna say, I can't do math. 30, 35-31. Yeah, that seems right. I know you also predicted that, but I'm bad at math.
So I might agree with Val here and say that it's probably going to be a split. Wyland is a very good coach, and he's a quick learner. So, but he is very tough to figure out on defense. So I'm going to go with a lower score. I'm going to say 24-21 or somewhere in that range.
That's good. That's good. So our next game here, game number 3 of this 12-game week for the CAA, is going to be Robert Morris, the Colonials, going to Florida A&M. My quick thoughts here, I'm putting Florida A&M on upset alert because I'm going to go with the Colonials by 7, 42-35. I just think the Colonials are too hot to stop taking last season's momentum and taking it into this season. So I'm picking the Colonials.
The thing is also, though, we had a full off season in the middle. Like, there's every chance that while I do think Depp is a pretty solid coach, maybe that momentum won't be as much of a factor due to the fairly lengthy layoff. But I think this will also be close. I'm gonna go with, let's say, 49-45. I think, in favor of Florida A&M.
That sounds about right to me because Depp's defense early in the season seemed to not exist last year. So,
oh my God, you should. I don't know if you remember our game, 58-55.
oh yeah,
Absolute shootout.
if that continues, I just don't see how Depp can win the game if it gets that kind of shootout again. So I'm gonna say like 63-56 or some basketball score.
And
All right,
slow pointing out in chat, he is 6-0 in his career in weeks 1 through 3.
I did see that, but all good things come to an end. So I'm gonna stick with my pick. Moving on, we have Southern Utah at Towson. We got Mr. D taking on our former podcast guest OSU kid. I'm gonna go with Mr. D. Southern Utah was sliding last season, and I don't see them recovering against this Tiger squad that has high ambitions.
Yeah, I think Mr. D, like, he's one of the better coaches in the CAA, and I mean that, like, it's again very competitive conference, and again, Southern Utah was a little sluggish down the stretch, and I just think, at least to start, Towson's going to win by multiple scores. I don't have a actual official score, but I think the Tigers get the dub here.
I'm gonna agree with you here. OSU didn't play the strongest schedule next year, and I think Towson's probably the strongest team that they played in a long time. So I'm gonna go with Mr. D by a couple scores here. I see he's actually in the chat, so that's always fun.
Hey, if Mr. D's listening, we got you. We got you. Always back in the CAA against the Big Sky teams. Next game, well, I guess that
Big
kind of
Sky, more like
contradicts
Big
myself.
Lie. Boom roasted.
Yeah, I very much contradicted myself because I just picked Montana State to beat Morgan State. But we move. Villanova at Chatty. So rivalry renewed, but I think the results are going to be the same. Chatty's going to win in a close one, 42-38.
This one sounds like it's gonna be real close, but I'm not gonna pick it because I'm not all that familiar with how either of them do early seasons. So I'm just gonna stay out of this one.
Yeah, it's going to be close. Edge's games tend to be very close, at least from my experience and what I remember from last season. I don't know a whole lot about Chatty, so I do think this is going to be close. I'm going to give the slight edge to Villanova, no pun intended, but that's just I think I'll go 35-31. I'm using that number a lot.
35. Watch every game end up 35-31. You'll just be right.
That'd be funny.
You'll just be right. That would be very funny.
Val,
All right,
the
so
true
moving
puppet
on,
master.
we've got
I still suck.
yeah. Moving on, we have Southeastern Louisiana at Delaware State. Hornet from Sela has a tough task against the quarterback for the Hornets, who was the CAA Player of the Year last year. This offense is clicking. Give me DSU by 21, doubling Sela's score by 42-21. As much as I want to pick my Nebraska Man Hornet, I've got to go with DSU.
Yeah, DSU is probably the best offensive team in the CAA, so you're going to expect a high score here. I think it's going to be a little bit closer. I think it's yeah. I think it's going to be closer than 3 scores, but it's going to be very high scoring. Like if this goes to over 100 combined points, I would not be shocked. That DSU air raid attack is just ruthless.
Yes, it is. It is. We're rolling, coming off 2 straight wins against Duquesne, and I think it was VMI to end the season. So we're riding high. I'm not sure how good Sala's defense is, but I am looking to score at least my season average from last year, which was 47 points a game. So if we can get that as a minimum, I think I can win by 15, 20 points, something like 47-20. But depends on which defense shows up for me.
Yeah, the defense issues have been happening for you. Obviously, defense is hard, but I can attest to that. But we'll see how that game goes. Moving on, we have myself, JMU at Indiana State. Originally, I obviously had this game scheduled against Shake, but there's a new Indiana State coach who I don't know who it is. So I'm not going to predict anything. New coaches are always hit or miss. I know that being one myself. When I was in season 3, it was a new coach versus new coach battle. Obviously, the coach I played against week 1 was Uga, and that was something. It was, I think the game finished like 77-21. It was not good, and I will want to avoid new coaches for the rest of my life. But
Yeah.
being said, I'm going to skip the vote. I'll let you guys talk about this one if you have any thoughts.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes when it's a brand new coach, they're going to have a slight edge just because it's like with the new coach, you have data to look up, do choose to scout instead of just feeling things out. You have that, data to look back on and, try and figure things out. Whereas if you're facing a new coach, you're going in completely blind. So, I mean, there's also the possibility that the new coach, maybe they don't know what the hell they're doing and they wind up getting crushed. But there's also the likelihood that, they're going to, they might know your tendencies a little bit more than anything you're able to cobble together. So, I don't know. There's pros and cons to facing a new coach,
Yeah,
So I'm
my
going to say,
strategy. Oh yeah, go for it.
yeah, I'm gonna lean Indiana State, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's the other way. It's a very
Yeah,
swinging one.
it is. I think what I'm gonna do here, make sure that Indiana State isn't listening. But what I'll do is, since there's no scouting I can pull off of, I think I'm just gonna have to go through game patterns, and if I notice anything, I'll just jump on it right away. And if I can't do anything, then it's just straight from the mind. And I'll see if there's anything that I can do. Hopefully, it ends in a win. Um, and also, Fruity just asked a question here. Why did they call me a pretender? I will answer that. Fruity, I believe you are a pretender not because you aren't deserving of a ranking, but we called contenders and pretenders using Josh's rankings, and he ranked you at number. And I do not believe that you are a number 3 coach in the FFCS. I believe you are top 10, and I do not see number 3 as you. Yeah, so that's why. Anyways, moving on. Next game here is Richmond at Hampton. Zan gets a little love fest against Hampton in week 1, who we're going to try to podcast soon. But give me the Spiders by a lot, 49-17.
I don't
Yeah,
know. I think. Oh, sorry.
I don't. Yep. I don't know what to expect out of the MAC, other than of being a relatively quiet conference. So I don't know what to expect out of Hampton either. But if C-Rex plays like he did last year, I can see Zand winning by a similar amount, something like 45-20 or 49-15, somewhere in that range. So Zand's probably going to win big here.
Yeah, and there's also the fact that Zand was at Marist, which I believe is also in the MAC, so perhaps there's some familiarity there that, either side can take advantage of. But give me Zand, honestly. I never doubt Zand.
Fair enough. We'll keep rolling here. 3 more games left. The next one is VMI at Gardner Webb. VMI beat me by 31. I beat Gardner Webb by 3. So just doing the math there, give me the Keydets by 34. I guess the easy score here would be 34-0, but I don't think that's gonna happen. So give me the Keydets by, we'll go 37-3.
All right.
I mean,
So
I,
I see that Gardner Webb has a new head coach this year with Koswi. I don't know how good he is, but if you beat them by, what is it, 3? I'm going to say VMI is going to win by 40. I'm just going to say 50-10. Keep it simple.
yeah, I know the Depu Eater only went 5-7 last season, but I think that's more a testament to the competitiveness of this conference rather than, him being bad. So I'm gonna also take the Keydets in this one fairly comfortably. But again, we don't know with
Yeah.
a new coach.
True. Cosby was Eastern Kentucky. I don't think it was last season? But we'll see how things go. I do say, yeah. VMI went 5-7 last season. The season before that, they were CAA champions. So it's just another testament to this conference and parity. We'll move on. We have Bryant at William and Mary. Bubbo has a tough challenge against Hunky, who is formerly Prairie Valley coach, and I think it was like NIT semifinalist or quarterfinalist. But I'm gonna go Bulldogs in a shootout, 45-42.
I
I
don't know.
like that pick. Oh, you go.
Yeah, I don't doubt William and Mary. They were a pretty solid team for a lot of last season. Again, they went 5-7, but they were ranked at one point. They just kind of had a struggle second half. So maybe with the long layoff of the off season, they come back in focused and they can give Prairie View A&M or not Prairie View, former Prairie View A&M Bryant a decent fight. So I'm gonna say, fuck it, I'm going 35-31 again, and I'm gonna go with the William and Mary Tribe.
All right. So
Okay.
me depends on if slow Bobo shows up or if fast Bobo shows up. 'Cause,
I lost to slow, but well, actually, I lost to a sub, but
yeah. So slow Bobo he's a borderline unstoppable in the second half for whatever reason. So if that Bobo shows up, he's gonna probably win by quite a bit. But if the faster version shows up, I'd say he probably loses close. But Hunky is good, so I think I'll lean towards Bryant. I'll probably give him something like 38-35.
All right, and then rolling into our game of the week, we have Idaho at Delaware. This is a big one. Obviously, Uga versus Larry Troy, however you know him. I actually predicted a Furman Delaware championship game last year. Obviously, we know it didn't happen. So there's going to be a lot of emojis, and there's going to be a decently fast game. I'm going to say Delaware is going to control the clock throughout, but Ugo is going to get a chance right at the end and scores a touchdown to win by 4, 28-24.
I think this is another case, much like my game against Stetson, where I know Uga and Larry know each other decently well. So I think in that case, you can kind of throw the form book out the window. I'm, of course, going to back the CAA here and go with the Fighting Blue Hens. And it's either going to be a shootout or it's going to be really low scoring, and I don't know which.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with you. It's depending on which Larry shows up, whether it's the one that just goes for it on 4th and 5 every time and gets it, or if it's the one that scores instantly. So it's it's either gonna be a shootout or a close game, and I think Larry wins both ways.
All right, well, that is our preview. Usually we go into blind resumes here, but obviously we don't have any because Bernie is out of action right now, and I don't know how to use Rice Sheet. So I am just going to avoid that for now. So we'll go right into our listener topics. Starting off, we had some questions from Captain CC. He said, why is the CAA not the favorite to win the national championship? And the reason I said is because the only reason I see a CAA team not being a favorite is if YSU or Delaware loses 2 or 3 in conference but still wins the conference and then has to go against the 1 or 2 seeds early on. That's the only reason why I could see the CAA not being like a factor in the playoff race. Obviously, the new Rice Sheet isn't out yet, but we could pull from season new coaches like that. If no one else has thoughts, I can just keep rolling. Moofish says, "Why will I go 9-3 for the 3rd straight season?" Obviously, gonna quote Kendrick Lamar here. It is in his DNA.
Dread from it, run from it. 9-3 in a first round playoff exit still arrives, just like me in going 3-9. I'm the reverse Moofish.
Yeah, with Moofish, it's the law. He has to go 9-3 and then lose in some just awful way in the first playoff round, while also doing other things like taking 88-yard field goals. Yeah, so
I'm
yeah,
saying
it's
if
just
it's
something that happens.
if it's a 0 difference, if it's a 0 diff, it should count. That's what I'm saying.
9,000 IQ.
That was a big issue in the council. I think it got rejected. I won't go and check, but I'm pretty sure it got rejected. Jox had a few questions here. She says, what regular season game will be most impactful in the CAA? And I'm going to go with Week 12, Towson YSU. I'm pretty sure that game will decide the CAA North. Both teams could very well be 11-0 going into that game. Obviously, a very slim chance of that happening, but I'll have my eyes on that one. Anyone else with some crucial games that'll happen in the CAA?
Yeah, I can agree on that. I don't think obviously the odds of 11-0 they're that's pretty daft, but it will probably decide the CAA North, and I say that as a member of the CAA North. But I would also look out for Delaware Richmond the last week of the season, because that could also be pretty big in the South.
I'd say anything going on in the South, period, because I think all teams were within one conference win of going to the title game, so that was something. At one point, there was a 4-way tie, so any game with the South is going to be kind of important next year or this season.
Yeah, it was really close at one point, and then it slowly separated towards the end, but obviously not by too much. Next question here, was the schedule totally random? Why does Youngstown State face 0 coaches with a Season 4 winning record and only 3 with a coach ELO over 1,500? Obviously, I can't speak for Bernie here, but what I know of is that he goes to a schedule generator, sets up divisions, sets up the cross division weeks, and then lets the schedule generate itself. So it should be totally random. Each team will play the rest of their division and then 3 Battle for Appomattox games. I'm not the schedule creator, so I'm not going to speak on behalf of Bernie, but I will speak on behalf of Bernie and say they are random.
I mean, I have nothing to add here. I don't know the behind the scenes of, how schedules are made.
Yeah, it's a one man show. That I think that question would have been better suited if Bernie was here, but obviously he is not. So, which CAA team is the most underrated, and which CAA team is the most overrated? So my overrated, I'm not going to say there's a truly overrated team, because the teams at the top of our power rankings have proven themselves, whether it is in previous CAA play or standout play elsewhere. However, I do think people should disregard anything that happened in the offseason. People are getting caught up in like the World Cup and things that happened there, where they fail to realize that people may not be trying. So just a warning, I guess. But my underrated team is Robert Morris. Like I said before, I do not think they should be number 8. I think they should be in that 5 or 6 area. So don't overlook the Colonials.
Yeah, I agree. There's not really a truly overrated team in the CAA. Underrated, I'm going to go. I think I'm going to go with VMI because again, they went 5-7 last season, but we've seen what the Pupeter can do. Winning the CAA title a couple seasons ago. If he can bounce back, he will be as big a threat as anyone to perhaps make the title game, make the tournament, and do some damage there.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with underrated as Robert Morris as well. They consistently overperform when they're playing, and they always keep you close and always have a shot to win. So I could easily see them getting a winning record or even better. And overrated, I don't really think anyone's overrated, but if you had to pick one, I'd just say either Delaware or Youngstown State, just because getting 9 and 10 wins on the regular doesn't feel like very sustainable in a conference that had, I think it was 9 or 10 teams with 6 or 7 wins, or sorry, 5 or 6 wins. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So next questions. These are submitted by Cooper. Which team is most likely to pull a shocker upset with big implications? His example was RMU over YSU Week 12 last year. My game is Delaware at Morgan State Week 11. Delaware has a big game against Richmond the next week, Week 12. So they may overlook the Bears. This is a classic trap game where the opponent is too confident in their abilities. So I would not be surprised to see the Bears pick a major upset win in this game. And obviously, I say upset. Obviously, Ryland's a good coach, but the big favorite in this game would, at this point of the season, would be Delaware.
I mean, I'm not going to rule myself out of an upset. Those of you who were around last season remember I very nearly took down YSU, so I'm not going to rule myself out. I could potentially see Villanova over Youngstown State Week 9. I think it's coming right after a non-conference game, so. And I've always thought Edge is a fairly strong coach. Just had a lot of bad luck last season, lost a decent amount of close games. So I could very easily see them take down YSU. I'm not sure that's really a major upset, but it would be an upset nonetheless.
I lost Matt, maybe turning into Optimus Matt now. But yeah, I think thing is in the season to say which games have upsets and which one don't. Obviously we will like who knows, like Duchesne could start winning every single game. Right? Because this is a game of numbers. This is a game of luck, more than a game of skill. and as much skill is involved in this game, at the end it boils down to numbers. So yeah, and Matt's back. I don't know if you had anything to say there.
No, honestly, my sentiment's pretty much the same as yours. As yours. It's too early to really say anything. It's a preseason. Nothing has actually happened yet. So yeah.
Yeah. So the next question here we kind of touched on which team may pick up that did not do so hot last year. So obviously Richmond is the easy choice because of the coaching change, but I'm going to go with VMI. They were the season 3 CAA champs for a reason, and I expect nothing less. I expect nothing less from the best name in FCFB.
And I'm gonna agree on the VMI pick. Obviously, I've been kind of tooting their horn this entire sort of podcast. Very good coach. Richmond, I think, would be a bit weird just because I think Fuzzy was a decent coach. It's just Zand is an upgrade, so I'm not really sure that's like a sudden jump up rather than just you know.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go with Morgan State actually. They were the toughest game for me last season by a mile, and I feel like they could do very, very well this season and potentially vie for the conference championship.
That's a good shout. I did not think of that. Morgan State finished 6-6. I want to say 5-7, one of the
Yeah,
two.
they were one of
Um,
like 2 teams to hold me under 35 points last year. So he's
yeah,
really good defensively, and he's tough to figure out as well on offense.
Yeah, he's sneaky good.
very very sneaky good. Uh, okay, and then the last question here from Cooper: is there a team that experiences a drop off? I am gonna go DSU here. I just can't overlook the defensive issues that they have. Um, Even though they have the player of the year on the offense and they can score points, case in point, 106 on HBU. But if the defense can't force turnovers and can't force stops, it's going to be a long season for the Hornets.
I think I
Um,
can kind of agree on that. I mean, there's a lot of teams that were just like around 500. So the only two teams where if there was a major drop off, it'd be like, whoa, would be Delaware and MySU, who are both 10-win teams. But yeah, DSU, it's going to be a very good offensive team, but if they run into a really good defense or the offense just isn't clicking, the defense just scares me a little bit too much.
yeah, I think I'm actually going to agree with Val here. So I'm going to give you guys a little bit of preview into what's coming my way. In terms of good defensive teams they play, I play both Villanova and Youngstown State, so that'll really tell me how I'm doing. But then I also play Vinny, so we'll see what happens there. But I think I could go for a regression, so we'll see.
All right. From Josh here. Who has the toughest non-conference in the CAA? Who has the easiest? The hardest here is Duquesne. Stetson. Let me pull them up. Let me pull up
Stetson, Jacksonville, Presbyterian, and Hampton.
There we go. That is not favorable. There's a few coaches that have some difficult games, but I just think like Stetson, Jacksonville. Obviously, Presby's a little easier than most. But those week 1 and week 2 are going to be tough for Duquesne. And then
And
easiest, I'm going to go William and Mary, because I did their OC and I put HBU in there, and so I'm definitely going to go William and Mary.
yeah, I think also for me, like I play Stetson, Jacksonville first 2 games, and then I play Delaware and YSU in the next 2. Those first 4 games are going to be an absolute meat grinder. So I can kind of agree on me as one of the toughest. Delaware also a candidate. Playing Idaho, playing Nodak State, playing Wofford, all really good teams.
So
As
um,
easiest, I'd say William and Mary or DSU.
yeah, so for the hardest, I'm going to go with Villanova. They Chattanooga, yeah, Gardner Webb, and then Mercer all in for their 4 games, and then they also play a number of tough and conference games as well. And then for easiest, I'm gonna go with myself because I play. I start off with I believe Hornet as well, and then I go to play Central Arkansas and Vinny, and then my other two games are NCAA, which is Canner, and then the week 8 game is Elon. That's the toughest game on my schedule. The Vinny game could be honestly be an 84 to 77 game if I'm not careful, but in the easiest, I would also say that it could be a contender as well, just purely because HBU is on there. They scored 106 on them last year. That was fun. And hardest, yeah. Hardest Villanova, easiest is me and William and Mary.
All right, and the next question from Josh is, where do you think the CAA will land in comparison to other conferences? Totally unbiased, like no bias at all at the top. Okay, that was biased. If I'm in a biased perspective, I'm gonna say right behind the ASUN. But don't tell anyone in the ASUN I said that. I'm pretty sure that no one in the ASUN is here except for Poet. Poet, I swear to God, if you tell the ASUN people I said that, I will have words to say with you.
Yeah, I mean, definitely top 5, but the FCS is so competitive. I think probably top 3 with the ASUN and either the Ivy or the Big Sky.
Yeah, I'll say top 3 or 4, depending on how the Ivy and Big Sky shake out. You obviously got the ASUN at number 1.
Okay, and then a few more questions from Captain CC, who's supposed to be here today, but got some problems to do. Who's the favorite in the CAA? I'm going Delaware. They won season 4, and I expect them to be good in season 5.
I'm gonna go with Towson. I think he's the best coach in the conference, so I think he'll win.
Yeah, it's going to be one of Delaware, Towson, and YSU, in my opinion. I do think the Towson pick is probably the smart pick here, just because Mr. D took over mid-season. He was really strong to end last season, if I'm remembering correctly. So if he can carry that into this season, there's no reason the Tigers can't win the CAA.
Yeah, Towson has been a topic here. A lot of people have been picking him. Next question from CC: who's the dark horse? Robert Morris is my pick.
I'm gonna go with Villanova.
Seconding the Nova pick.
Really, really help them here, get them prepared for conference play. So if they can come out on 4th, 3 out of conference, like the level of competition they're playing there is at or above our conference as a whole. So they could just roll the rest of the way. So I could see them potentially getting 10 wins if they do.
Yeah,
good
I'm gonna second the Nova pick. They were 6-6. They very, very easily could have been different. They had that really close loss to Holy Cross. They had a really close loss to Robert Morris. Really close loss to Cal Poly, which I believe was Fruity at the time. So yeah, that's a good team that I think is a lot better than their record showed.
All right, next one here. Who is outside looking in? I took this in context of the championship game, not in the playoffs. I did say Richmond. I think Richmond is going to finish right behind Delaware.
I think I'm going to agree with you that Richmond definitely is going to be fighting for a spot because it seems like Delaware is a favorite for the South right now. And obviously the North is it's more just Bernie or Towson. So.
Yeah, the South is just, and anything can happen in the CAA South. Delaware is obviously the front runner. I think Richmond is not too far behind them. I'd say, yeah, I'll agree on Richmond.
All right, next one. Who gets the most auto
Sorry,
bids?
what did I miss?
Oh, nothing. No, you missed nothing. Absolutely nothing.
It's okay. I'm used to it. I'll just keep it in mind. You guys just keep it in
Bulletin
mind
board
once I'm
material.
12-0.
Bulletin board material, like me being pegged for last.
if you go 12-0, all respect to you, man. You do you. Um, next question here from CC: Who gets most bids? I'm going ASUN, but I could see the CAA with 3 or 4.
Honestly, I can see ASUN or Big Sky or even the Ivy getting 3 or 4 bids each, as well as us getting potentially 3 or 4 bids or more, depending on how the conference and out of conference play out.
Yeah, I'll agree. Either ASUN, Big Sky, or us. One of those three. And Ivy very close behind.
All right, next one here. Does Pello get bored, take over a team, and run the table to a natty? No.
Nope.
Perhaps.
He seems pretty done with coaching.
Yeah, I don't think the way that national championship ended, I can't say he will come back to coach. He is having fun in the channels, he's enjoying it. Next question, still from CC here. Which coach is most likely to have a better record than last year, and which is more likely to have a worse? I went with kind of easy picks for the league and for the CAA. For CAA, better Richmond, worse DSU. For the league, better UC Davis, obviously, and worse Bethune-Cookman, obviously.
So for my better, I'm actually gonna pick myself for this league just because I think my out of conference is more workable this year. Last year was just a tough out of conference, but I feel like I could be worse as well, but I think I can do better. And then in terms of the entire league, the team that will do better has to be UC Davis because they went 0-12.
Yeah, I mean, we can pretty much all agree on UC Davis there. As for better in the CAA, fuck it, I'm betting on myself. I was close to actually being 500, just a couple one possession games away. I mean, to be fair, I think 2 of my wins were. Oh fuck it, I'm betting on myself. Mark it down. I am better than last year, unless I finish 3-9 again, in which case
improving is always good. Improvement is what you strive for.
And then
next question here from Denny. Oh yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Worse. Honestly, I don't really see any teams getting a whole lot worse. I mean, maybe William and Mary. I mean, they went 5-7, but I feel like the conference is more competitive than it was like even the first half of last season. And Bobo's just really. There's 2 Bobos. There's the Bobo that's actually really good and beat Delaware State, beat Morehead State, and the one that fell off a cliff at the end of last season, lost their last 4.
Yeah.
I'm gonna agree with you on that. In that Bobo is very unpredictable, but I'd say worse. The league, Bethune-Cookman, for CAA by itself, I am willing to bet that Bernie will fall off a little bit here.
That's a pretty safe bet as well. Bernie did only lose, one conference game before the championship, and it was to Robert Morris, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, he went 10-2 last year.
Yeah. So Danny asking which conference is least like the CAA. I'm pretty sure we can come to a consensus that it is the MAC. I have yet to see any form of media come out of the MAC. So I will gladly accept some when it is out, but for now, yeah, it's the MAC.
I'm gonna MAC you, and then MAC is a myth as well, apparently. So very quiet. Don't really hear much out of him. So yeah.
Where's old Monmouth to, throw a fit and fight with the committee when you need him?
Next, this is the last one. Was up asking a question, which someone did ask last season of podcasts, but I guess over them, see if any of them changed. He asked, "What are your conference power rankings?" I said ASUN 1, CAA 2, IV 3. I couldn't decide a fourth between America East, Big Sky. I couldn't decide a fifth between MVC, CFC. I couldn't decide a sixth between Southland and Delta, and then bringing up the rear is a MAC. Very, very indecisive list for me.
Yeah, I think
I'd say about the same, except maybe flip the Big Sky and the MVC there.
Yeah, I think it's more tiers than like any consensus 1 through whatever, because like you have ASUN, CAA, Ivy. I might throw in the Big Sky there, and then you have AE, MVC, CFC, and then you have Southland, Dick, Mac. My view. I mean, I could be way off, and out of nowhere, one of those bottom tier conferences just turns into an absolute torture chamber. But the AE is a lot better than it was when I was.
Yeah, I think it's just because we have to base things off of last season that it gets kind of in the mud about conferences getting better, but you don't know how they eventually turn out. And some new conference structures, like I know the Big Sky is doing pods and stuff like that. Anyways, I will wrap this up unless you guys have anything you want to add. Perfect. All right. Thank you guys for tuning in.